his authority by simply saying that, hey, I'm going to, if you don't you resign, I'm going to buy them to veto your funding, which he did do. I think that's rather lawful, and quite honestly, I would be as upset as I am now if the Republicans did that to a Democratic sitting governor. You shouldn't do that. That is, elections have consequences, and you have to deal with them sometimes. But so we're going to refile that. We'll see what happens there. Just some other ideas that we have, that we are filing a Second Amendment holiday, a Second Amendment tax holiday for a day or a weekend to allow you to buy anything related to celebrating the Second Amendment rights, guns, bullets, those kinds of things. No sales tax for a day or two. I think that's just good for the economy and good for free commerce. Also, we had a bill last session. We're going to refile it to put your checkbooks online for the top 50 school districts in the state. Again, extraordinarily inexpensive thing to do. When I was on the city council in Frisco, I championed that effort. We did get it done. And the resistance at first was it's going to cost a lot of money. In fact, the city of Dallas claimed it was going to cost $200,000 a year. Unfortunately for them, Collin County had already done it for $180 a year. So it was a nice bullet in your gun when that objection came from staff. And I said, yeah, but Collin County, in fact, I talked to Judge Self, and he said that we could use his IT people, and they would come in and help us for free. So the city's checkbook's online. And we want to do that because, you know, the vast majority of all of our money's property tax-wise is going to the school districts. And it is an investment, clearly, but we need to ensure that we have access to, if you don't, most people aren't going to check the checkbook online in any school district, but you should have the right to do so if you want to. And again, for $180, and when you're talking $400 million budgets, no sweat. So we want to try that again. America the Movie, if you've seen it, I think it should be mandatory viewing for any high school student. To know what's Another kind of out-of-the-box idea we've had is if you cannot prove you're here legally, whether you're a citizen or a legal resident or even on a temporary work visa, what have you, then if you wire money outside the country, 10% fee in the state of Texas. Right now, there's about $5 billion of our currency going out of the country, and if we just Texas, I believe that's accurate. So that would mean, and I have to check that figure, but I believe that was the case. It was $5 billion out of Texas. Then we're talking about $500 million to the state coffers. That is a big chunk of money even for states. If you're a citizen, if you're legal here, no sweat, zero. Okay. So, and then we had some other interesting ideas that we're toying with right now about, because I was on Human Services Committee, I do want to share this with you as well. 56% of births last year in the state of Texas were paid for by Medicaid. 56%. That's unsustainable. We cannot sustain that kind of spending. And it's probably only going to get worse. We've really got to look at how we're going to move forward with that. And then, of course, the welfare spending. Health and Human Services gobbles up the most of our state funds, and then education second. And between those two, it's over, I believe, 3/4 of all. And it's in the little pie chart that you were handed out. And that's quite a hit that we're taking. So we were talking about bantering around new ways of doing business. Like perhaps if you're on welfare and you're willing to wear a contraceptive patch, we might give you a couple extra bucks because then you're not going to have another kid. Things along those lines to do things differently because we have to do something. Or we're like Thelma and Louise in the car going 60 miles an hour towards the cliff, and when you just want to tap the brakes, they say you're crazy. I think you're crazy if you don't tap the brakes. Or you tap the brakes so then you can turn the car around so you don't go off the darn cliff. But some people just care about the here and now and elections and their own well-being, and they just say, we're not there yet. This is all, isn't this fun? The sun's out. Yeah, but you're going 60 miles an hour. And then another one was no pension in the state higher than what a 4-star general makes in his retirement, his or her retirement. Just again, another interesting little thing. While you're working, I don't care. There's some doctors that are on the state payroll making high six figures, $800,000, $900,000 in certain fields. But when you retire, if a 4-star general that served this country for 35 to 40 years, and they're responsible for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives, and literally trillions of dollars in assets, and we give them roughly $150,000 a year or so in retirement, I think that's good enough for anybody in the state of Texas. So we'll kind of tie that to it. And we'll see where we go from there. And then lastly, you saw what happened in Plano. If you haven't, they passed an ordinance to put transgender folks as a protected class. That's the city of Plano. And I want to just make sure that we protect private property rights and business owner rights, because if I'm a business owner, I can't even believe we've gotten to this. This is like theater of the absurd. But if I'm a business owner and I want to have a men's room and a women's room in my restaurant, I think I should have the right to do so. And it happened in California, Assembly Bill AB 1266. They passed a law in the state of California that said if you may be genetically a male, but if you feel more like you're a female, then you can play on the girls' basketball team. I can use the women's restroom, K through 12. That is state law in California. I read that bill. Governor Brown signed it. If you want to play on the girls' soccer team, you can. Oh, and you can also shower with in the girls' soccer team. This is madness. This is not anything about rights. This is crazy stuff.
Jerry Brown.
Yeah, Jerry Brown, he signed it. Linda's from California.
Shania Twain song.
Yeah, well, this is the deal. If you are a man and you want to wear a dress, I believe you have every right to wear that dress. I also believe I have every right not to hire you. And that's what I want to protect, is freedom and liberty. And I think the left, some of the people, I can't even imagine the majority of Democrats would be for something like that. If they put it out onto a referendum like they do a lot of times in California, I don't think it would pass. I would hope not anyway, but I think we've gotten a little too far out. So anyhow, that's the good, the bad, and the ugly of the last session. Real quickly, speaker's race. As objectively as I possibly can, here is the quick background on that. In 2003, for the first time since Reconstruction, Tom Craddock, sir.
Can I say something before you do that, so it'll help you along? He's a dirtbag.
Tom Craddock?
I'm just kidding. No,
Okay.
the other guy. The other guy.
We'll have time for everyone to speak. Thank you so much. In 2003, Tom Craddock became the first Republican Speaker of the House since Reconstruction. And then he was Speaker of the House until 2009. There was a bit of a semi-revolt, having not been there. This is all second information from members that were, but some members felt that Speaker Craddock was too heavy-handed, too much of whipping things up and getting his way. I wasn't there. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I know that I like Tom Craddock. I think he's a good member now. I never served under him while I was Speaker. But a lot of members felt that way. And there was a bit of a revolt, and it actually went to the House floor. But the way in which the procedures work, it's almost like they're speaking another language, because they never had a formal vote. What they did was they were voting on how to vote. What's the process in voting? And those were a bunch of proxy votes to get him there. And I believe it was Jim Pitts, who's now a retired member, was the one that was kind of leading that charge and really wanted to be Speaker. And he got close. I mean, he got apparently up to into the 70s on these procedural votes. 71, you need 76 is the magic number in a body 150. So when it was clear to him that he couldn't get there, he bowed out, told Tom Craddock he wasn't going to challenge it anymore, and then Tom Craddock was re-elected in 2007 session by acclamation, meaning just technically speaking, all the members of the body voted for him. But clearly there was a pretty major revolt when they had to go through that. So that's the inside baseball that happened in 07. And then in 2009, there was that clamoring again, and that opposition had gotten close the time before, so some of the higher-ranking Republican members said to Speaker Craddock, look, there's only 76 Republicans this time. At the time, it was 76 to 74. We really need to think about if we want to continue on in leadership, maybe you should step down and somebody else should take your place. And he said, no, I want to stick it out. And it looked like they had the votes, and then 11 Republican members had a meeting. And this is all, you know, if you Google it, you'll see all these news articles coming up. And one of the members there was Joe Strauss. One of the members there was Charlie Guerin. One was Byron Cook. And one was Jim Keffer. Those are the 4 remaining members that were there in 2011. In 2009, sorry, of the 11 members. And they basically decided, look, the Democrats are fed up with Craddock. They have 65 Democrats. Not every Democrat was, but most, the vast majority were. If you had 65 and us 11, that's 76. So we're going to decide, the 11 of us, who's the Speaker of the House. And they went, I think, again, I wasn't there. I wasn't even in the body then. But from what I'm told, pretty much everybody there wanted to be the Speaker. Now, that is sheer speculation, but it could be true. Maybe 8 of the 11. And it came out that they picked Joe Strauss because he had the least baggage, is what I heard. Because he was a member that had served about a term and a half. He had the fewest enemies. They felt he was the most palpable. And David Arbuckle, who was a lobbyist at the time, was shaking his head because he probably knew and lived it himself. So there were press cameras apparently outside that house, and when they came out, they said, we're going to support Joe Strauss. Now, had there been a vote, it should have been 76 to 70. But once some of the other members heard that, oh my God, he's got 76, Joe, I'm with you. And then a couple more came, and then there was a floodgate, and then it got to the point where he was elected by acclamation. So see why, you know, these acclamation votes aren't really quite what they appear to be. And then in the 09 session, conservatives across Texas were upset because I believe the sonogram bill was not passed at the time. The Sanctuary Cities bill was not passed. It still hasn't been passed and signed into law. Voter ID was not passed. That was another one. And, you know, from the speaker's side, Speaker Strauss's side, he was saying, look, I had a body of 76, 74. It was hard to get that stuff done. I needed to whip all my 76 together. That's what they were saying. But nonetheless, there was a movement to say we need new leadership. In 2011, Ken Paxton stepped up, a member that was respected, had been there 8 years, and said, I'll run for speaker. Ken ran, he ran successfully. They had a caucus. They had 100 members at the time. They just asked everybody, it wasn't done the way the party platform says, where you're going to have a ballot. They just, and again, it wasn't in the room, but from people that I trust that were in the room, they said, okay, everybody here for Speaker Strauss, stand up. And 70 of the 100 members stood up. And they said, all right, Speaker Strauss won the caucus. Let's go out there and we all vote. And I would have preferred it to have a balance and have some voter integrity. You know, you think about voter integrity, how important it is with voter ID. Everybody gets a ballot, then you have somebody from this camp, somebody from this camp, and you count them up, and you have a parliamentarian maybe count them, and then you have an actual vote of, all right, you got this many ballots, you got this many, you won. That didn't happen. So when it hit the floor, all but 17 members voted for Speaker Strauss to be Speaker again. Ken Paxton was one of the no's. There were a couple of whites, but let's just consider them no votes. So there were 17, and he was Speaker again. Now, what the Speaker Strauss's camp will say is, hey, in the 2011 session, we did get voter ID passed. You know, we did get sonogram bill passed. And, you know, they did. I mean, it did come out. Now, there are folks that will say, well, you did it begrudgingly, and we got these passed in spite of you. So those are kind of the both sides of where we are. And then what I saw, and what I feel I'm far more adept and enjoying speaking at, is the 2013 session, because I was there. And I did see a body, and I honestly did feel like I was in steerage. If we were on the Titanic, I would have made it on the life. I felt that it was, you know, I guess in any body of 150, you're going to have an oligarchy. I mean, you're going to have 6 or 7 or 8 pretty much pulling the strings. But I felt like I took a backseat to the other party. And I wanted protection. As a Republican in a body of 95 to 55, I wanted some heavy artillery behind me. I only got one bill passed that I primary authored. Again, learning tricks as you go. Lots of bills that I co-authored and lots of bills that I joint authored did get passed. In fact, I think I had more bills passed on co-authorship than any other freshman member other than Rick Miller. So you learn how to get around these obstacles. But that was what I saw. And what I wanted to do tonight was have this town hall meeting and invite all 170,000 people that I have the privilege of representing and hear from you all and give you some mic time. And you let me know what you think and what you want me to do. Because Scott Turner, the member that I talked about earlier, is an announced candidate for speaker. The lay of the land for the speakership right now is, and again, this is just as a reporter objectively retelling it, I think the number was 71, and Shane, correct me if I'm wrong, but 73. 73 Republican members have come out publicly saying they're going to vote for Joe Strauss. And considering that he got most every Democrat prior to that, there's 52 Democrats in this half body. Right now it's 98-52. The Republicans, we picked up 3 seats in the November election. So if you had the 73, you need 76 as the magic number, plus, you don't need clearly all the Democrats, you need 3. It looks like he'll be the next speaker. Now the election has not been taken. The votes haven't been cast. There's almost 3 weeks to go. Things can change. But that's kind of where we are now. So what I wanted to do was ask folks that are here, and please feel free to just come up to, or just raise your hand. I mean, the acoustics are really good here. Or if you have a statement that you want me to read or something, feel free. But I want to hear from you. I want to shut up. God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth, so I want to use yours. But have it.
Hi, my name is Adam Manick. I live in Winterwell. I currently work in Denton ISD with special education students at a high school there. I'm a U.S. Air Force veteran, 1989-93, from here in Texas, although I lived other places prior to 1987. I had 2 issues I want to bring to Representative Fallon. I spoke with you about these at the event for Ken Paxton over in Allen, and so I put them in written form, provide them to your representative over here. First is a request to amend the Hazelwood Act. For those of you not familiar with it, it provides us Texas veterans up to 150 hours at a state college or university. And so I'm taking advantage of that and furthering my education, pursuing my associates and on to my bachelor's. However, there's some issues with it. Now, what's good about it is we can pass it on to our family, children, grandchildren. But they can't use hours concurrently while we're taking. Secondly, they have to have graduated high school. And third, they have to be over 18. My stepson was a senior at Frisco Lone Star taking dual credit classes. Hadn't graduated, wasn't 18. Why would you have a restriction that holds children back, students, from using the benefit they're going to receive anyway? Let's eliminate the barriers and allow our dependent kids to be able to take classes in high school, push them ahead of their peers, and pursue their higher education early. Secondly, working in special education, my wife being a teacher in Denton as well, we've certainly seen changes in the benefits package, and teachers and educators in Texas seem to be bottom of the rung when it comes to benefits compared to other state employees. In fact, my understanding, we're kind of 90 considered state employees because we receive monies from multiple sources. Well, so does law enforcement, and so does this group, so does that group. So I would request that we, educators, be brought up with the benefits as the rest of the state employees and be recognized for our contribution to our children, similarly to what our law enforcement officers receive protecting our children and our society. Not to make things more expensive, because I certainly don't want to spend more money, but God knows we waste enough money on things in this state. So I'd like to see us receive the same kind of benefits package that our law enforcement officers do and our other state employees do, so that we don't see the increased costs that we've seen associated with the Affordable Care Act. I'm sure everybody in here may have been affected by it just a little bit. But we've also seen, we've lost Blue Cross Blue Shield and gone to United Healthcare. Our benefits package, the low end one got dropped. So everybody's having to pay more for now what's the bottom of the ladder, and even then, I have to come up with a couple $1,000 deductible just to see the insurance company start taking things in. So I provided written copies of that to your people, and I appreciate your service. Thank you.
Thank you. Just in comment to the Hazelwood Act, it does sound like it needs some cleaning up, really just some housekeeping. And there's always going to be, when they write that legislation, they think they've got everything covered, and then the real world hits and says, there's a nook here, there's a cranny here, could you putty those through? So I'd like to look into that for you as well. And yeah, I mean, with the teachers, my parents are retired teachers, and it's always a challenge. And you got this finite bucket, and you want to do as much as you can. Critical employees, police, fire, teachers. One of the good things I think Governor Abbott was doing was recognizing any veteran at any of his audiences, and then also recognizing any teacher. So in that vein, by the way, if just a show of hands, any veterans here? Thank you very much. Any former teachers here, or current teachers? A couple double whammies. Linda?
Yeah. You know, Pat, we're good friends, and I've worked with you from the very start. And I have great respect for you. You are a conservative, Scott Turner's conservative. And I really, really think that you have to stand by what you're doing. And Joe Strauss is a conservative. And you know, it may hurt you to go down there and not vote for Joe Strauss. But Scott Turner deserves our vote, and we are supporting him. And I hope we will too. It's a very simple statement.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I trust you because I know your heart, and I know we know what we believe in. And I would be very, very disappointed. Do it. Just vote for him. And if you have to take a little hit because of it, because you probably will, it's okay. Because you know what? You're going to get reelected again and again because we will say, we got the right guy in there, and that's you.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to take 30 seconds to tell you a quick Linda Wood story. In 2009, I was running for city council, and Linda is a power broker over Frisco Lakes, very important constituency if you want to run for anything really around here in Denton County, particularly for city council in Frisco. And we had a good talk, and then some people from the other side said, hey, you might want to rethink that, maybe you want to support our candidate. And then I went back and pitched it to me, so we'd had 2-3 conversations. So when I went and knocked on doors one day, it was drizzly, cold, and rain. I love knocking on doors in bad weather because people are far more sympathetic when they're at the doors. So I was knocking on her door, and we had a good little visit, and I said, they went pretty well, I had a volunteer with me. 5 hours later, we come back to get in the car, the sun had set, and taped to my door, it was cold and windy and rainy, were hot, warm chocolate chip cookies. So we parked right out in front of her house. And I said, I think we got Linda Woods.
You do have me, and I want you to do the right thing.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I guess my biggest question with regard to Speaker Strauss is how even-handed is he? I hear both sides. Some will say, oh, he does only those things he wants gets through, and I've heard others say he doesn't bother us as long as it's a normal kind of thing. What's your opinion on that from your experience?
That's a very good question. And, everybody has different leadership styles. And having been in the military myself, you've experienced different commanders. And I think Tom Craddock's leadership style was more direct and cajoling of members. I never was called in the Speaker's office to talk about legislation or cajoling one or the other. His leadership style is more of delegation. There's 3 or 4 members that do that. If you're the chairman of calendars, you are a very powerful member. Because if you don't want something to come out of your committee, it just dies. We call calendars the graveyard of bills, because that's where they go to die. And it's, I would do things differently. And for the record, I never want to be Speaker of the House. I don't want to live in Austin. I don't like Austin. I love being up here with real people. And you have to, it's a full-time job. This one is becoming, and has been really fun, but that's more of an 80-hour-a-week job, where this one, if you do it right, it's 30 or 40 hours you can squeak by sometimes. When you're not in session, when you're in session, it's clearly full-time. I just would have done it differently with the new members coming in. I would have really made sure I met with, I never got a, and I'm 46. I don't need to be, I don't have a thin skin, at least I try not to, but when a member of your own party wins the primary, I think you should call them and congratulate them. I never got that call. I mean, it's just my personal experience. I would have appreciated the call just because I think it's good decorum. And then when we all got sworn in, I personally would call all the members in. Now, there's 43 new members, so it's going to take you some time, but I'd spend 20, 30 minutes with them. That only happened because I initiated it. I think that should have come, again, this is about being a leader, and everybody has different leadership styles. And I clearly was disappointed with the legislation. Some of which, as you saw, was good, some bad, some ugly. And I do think, again, to try to be as even-handed as possible, it's kind of like a head coach in football. You're not going to make all your players happy. They're all going to think their legislation is awesome. Every player thinks they should be on the field starting, but that's clearly not the case. I mean, some people are better than others. Some pieces of legislation are better. We're in a body that's 95-55, and we're in Texas in 2014. And the people of this state, at least right now, want us to govern right of center. And they want conservative legislation, and I think we should reflect that. I don't think the body truly quite reflects. Now, there are people that will disagree and say it does. I just think we could have done a better job with it. And I think, again, to be fair, politics is a game of what have you done for me lately? Because I want to be very careful. I've heard about what happened and read about what happened in 2009 and 2011. I wasn't there. I did see what happened in 2013. And if 2013 had gone differently and been far better, well, I might, be singing a different tune. It didn't quite get us there, and it really should have. And commonsensical things like taking away the power for the prosecutor for Travis County, all the senior members, the party should have been, absolutely. But I'm fighting a senior member about that. And it was a pretty vicious fight. I mean, on the floor, he's gruff and he's intimidating. Here, what are you doing? No, this is wrong. And so it was hard, and it was tough. So I would like to see a turn clearly to better reflect the constituency of the state. And I don't think we quite do that yet. Yes.
If I may ask kind of a follow-on, why do we continue to have both Republican and Democratic chairs of committees when we have such a majority? I've never lived anywhere where that happened.
I'll share with you an interesting conversation I had with the chairman after session, just recently, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. It was candid. It was, so I can't tell you who it was, but it was one other member. And I said to this person, why can't we have, you know, in my heart of hearts, and I've been saying this since 2012 when I first ran for office, why can't we just have a caucus? Why can't the Republicans get together? Because quite frankly, if you can't get a majority of Republicans to support you, you shouldn't be Speaker. Period. End of story. So what happened in 2009 never should have happened. And if one little thing happens, it does, you know, one thing occurs, it never would have had it go that way, but it did. So anyway, I said to this member, why can't we just do that? And this member said, from a very rural, very red area, oh no, that's not the way we do it here. The Democrats are part of the process, and this way it should always be. And I looked at him and I said, do you really think that if they were in control, they are going to share power like that? Are you insane? Do they do that in California?
No.
Do they do that in Massachusetts? Do they do that in any blue state? You know. Now, I'm all for bipartisanship in that if a Democrat has a good idea, let's bring it. Just because they have it, let's not be biased. Let's take the legislation on its own merits. Let's be cordial to one another. Let's be respectful of one another. Let's try to work together. But it's a 95-55 body. You're the junior partner. You are not even partners. And it felt a lot of the time, at least again with the prism and the worldview that I have, that we weren't the senior partner. We were sometimes, you know, even
So that's
partners.
Joe Strauss.
Well, no, I wasn't talking to the speaker about that, so that person was not at all for a caucus, which I thought was incredibly odd. But all parties do it. I would expect the Democrats, obviously the Democrats do it in DC, and so do the Republicans. When they get a majority, they elected Nancy Pelosi. They didn't go to all the Republicans and say, we'll find the most conservative Democrat from North Carolina we can. Was it Heath Schuler? Wasn't he a conservative Democrat? We find Heath Schuler, we got 19 Democrats, we'll go with all you Republicans and he'll be Speaker of the House. No, they said, we're going to get in a caucus, and they picked, you know, one of the zany lefty or, you know, lefty Trotsky members they got and said, you're going to be Speaker. Right? So Republicans, I think, should do that. I've been calling for that, and I want it done, and they won't. You know, nobody seems to want that for some reason. But. Sir.
Representative Fallon, I serve as operations director for a Texas nonprofit, and I had two questions.
Yes.
One was I spoke with Representative Turner, and he told a disabled veteran, 100% disabled veteran, and his 9-year-old daughter who suffers from intractable epilepsy that medical marijuana was immoral and unethical to treat her untreatable epilepsy. Do you agree with those statements?
That it's immoral and unethical?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'd never say something along those lines, particularly when you're talking about children with illnesses. What I would say is, I did visit California, and I would never do a medical marijuana model. I wouldn't follow the California model at all, because you jog on the beach, and there's every other store is medical marijuana. They're hawking it. Hey, you want a script? $35. Oh, I got anxiety. I'm worried. You get medical marijuana. That's an abuse of the system. What I'd like to do with that is certainly be open-minded about it, not be rigid. Certainly, I don't think if somebody wants to take their children and mitigate their suffering, that is the warmest thing a parent can do, or any of us can do for children. But I'd like to see how Colorado, how California, how some of the other states are doing it. You know, it's been said that the 50 states are all laboratories of democracy. So let's see how other states are doing it and then kind of reassess. So I just want to kind of take a wait-and-see approach right now.
Well, 24 other states have already done so, but
Yeah.
the second part of my question is, yesterday Representative Joe Moody of El Paso introduced House Bill 507, which would decriminalize possession of small amounts of marijuana. Currently, it's up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine for possession of under 2 ounces. This bill would amend the penalty to a $100 civil penalty with no arrest and no jail time. Currently, if you get arrested with marijuana, you lose the ability to get funding for higher education through FAFSA through the Higher Education Act of 1998.
If you get caught with even trace amounts?
Exactly. So getting caught with this possession charge limits your ability to get education, your housing, your jobs, and this bill would be a common sense approach to this problem, because right now we've been trying to stop the drug war. We've had a drug war for 40 years. We can't keep marijuana out of our prisons. We expect to keep it off our streets. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to support a bill that would save the state of Texas about $770 million a year, and putting police on the streets going after violent criminals, sex offenders, things like that, instead of spending 3 hours booking someone for possessing a joint.
Thanks for the question. You know, I want to be careful with how we approach this, because you don't want to be perceived to encourage drug use with children. I'd like to talk to Chairman Tan Parker, who's the Chair of Corrections, to see how crowded are our prisons? How much money are we spending? How many people are in prisons? Not jails, not in the county jail. How many are in prisons for solely marijuana possession or marijuana use? I think it's probably more in the distribution side of that.
Representative Parker has actually spoken very favorably on this topic, and he is looking to come on as a sponsor for this bill.
And Tan's a good friend of mine. I just haven't talked to him about this specifically yet. Also, right now, the way it stands, because it is illegal,